Welcome to the Ocular Surface Academy podcast, TFOS Dues 2 edition. Join us as we meet with the researchers behind this landmark international consensus. Each episode will feature practical clinical takeaways. Before we get to today's episode, here's a quick word from our sponsor.
The Systane iLux system is a device designed to treat patients with meibomian gland dysfunction, or MGD. It is the leading cause of dry eye. Dry eye is caused by deficiencies in the quantity and quality of meibum or other tear components within the tear film. Around 30 million people are estimated in the United States to suffer from dry eye symptoms. According to a study, 86% of dry eye sufferers are reported to have clinical signs of meibomian gland dysfunction. Healthy meibomian glands produce clear and liquid meibum. Dysfunctional glands produce meibum that is either cloudy or thick and paste-like. In some cases, the glands do not express any meibum when compressed. This may indicate fully blocked, capped, or damaged glands. The Systane iLux system allows eye care professionals to target dysfunctional glands and improve signs and symptoms of MGD using localized heat followed by compression therapy. To clear the glands, the eye care professional positions the Systane iLux device on the eyelid and applies light-based heat to melt the meibum. Compression of the lids after heat therapy allows the eye care professional to express the unhealthy meibum. When the blockage is cleared from the unhealthy glands and/or clear, healthy meibum is seen on the lid margin. The procedure is complete.
Welcome your host and co-host for today's episode of the Ocular Surface Academy podcast, Dr. Scott Schachter and Dr. Christopher Starr.
Welcome, everybody, to our final episode of the Ocular Surface Academy TFOS Dues 2 podcast. So, Team Sullivan and Dr. Chris Starr. Chris, it's been a journey. It's been a pleasure. And welcome, Team Sullivan. So, we're here today to talk about what is next for TFOS. I'm excited to hear about it. I know Chris, you're going to be a part of it. TFOS Dues 2, pretty tough act to follow, but I think you've got great things in store for us. So, share with us a little bit about that, Amy. Or a lot about it.
Yes, thank you. Again, thank you so much for pulling together the Ocular Surface Academy overview of TFOS Dues 2. And we are so excited to be able to bring to the world the next TFOS workshop. And actually, what's going to be really exciting about this one, and Chris is going to be very involved with this. He's on the steering committee. We are actually going to be making ocular surface disease a lot more, say, digestible and tangible to humans. I like to call patients humans. So not only to the eye care professionals, but also to humans, because this new TFOS workshop is going to be about a lifestyle epidemic, ocular surface disease. And we're not talking about, we are analyzing the science behind it, but we're going to be translating it into how our lifestyle choices are actually impacting our vision, how our lifestyle choices can actually impact the homeostasis of our eyes, the ocular surface, and in many cases cause or exacerbate ocular surface disease. So this is going to be a very exciting workshop. And once again, it's going to be a global initiative. We have more than 30 countries who will be involved in this. And it's exciting.
It is really exciting. And, as a member of the public awareness subcommittee of TFOS Dues 2, the messaging, because it was so scientific and so, just heavily medical, a lot of our messaging was really to other eye care providers, eye doctors. And that's still going. This podcast is largely for them. And just a month ago, I was a speaker at a Mexican TFOS Dues 2 meeting where different speakers covered each of this. So it's still ongoing and it's still very much geared to educating doctors. But this one will be very different. And as also part of the public awareness subcommittee on this one, I feel like the messaging will be a lot more geared and a lot more useful for the general public. So public awareness. This one, we will be messaging eye care providers too, of course, but I think the messaging will be much more applicable to everyday people, and they will find this extraordinarily useful and informative.
And I think also, Chris, to your point, what's interesting is when we were collaborating with TFOS DUS 2 with the Public Awareness Committee, at that time, it was the first time we had a so-called public awareness group focusing on a TFOS workshop and the findings. So I think we learned a lot with that subcommittee about how to not only, well, again, digest the information, but to share it. And because with TFOS DUS 2, as to your point, it was really focused on the eye care professionals. This time it's for your colleagues, but also patients. So it really is to everyone out there. And it will be exciting because you are going to be leading up the public awareness subcommittee. So you will be able to package all of this and say, okay, how do I share this with my colleagues? But how do I share it with my patients? And it will be really great to work together again because it's fun. And you are, sir. So thank you again.
Well, thanks for having me.
Another consideration here too is that this about lifestyle. With TFOS DUS 2, what we tried to do was to help correct people's blurred vision so they could see better. They don't have to blink as much. Now their eyes are open. So now we want them to see, what that food you're about to eat, or that stuff you put on your eyeliner, or on your eyeliner on your eye, or where you live. Do you live indoors, outdoors? Is there a smokestack nearby you? Are you on a mountain? Where are you? Are you in a place where there are a lot of athletes? Are you an athlete? There are so many different aspects to this about nutrition, cosmetics, societal influences, whether you can sleep at night or not, whether you feel good or not, whether you feel depressed or not. All of these things that we do to ourselves or others may do to us can impact and induce, promote, or cause ocular surface disease. So people need to learn about this. And because our eyes are now open, because the dry eye is taken care of, at least in part, we can go forward.
There's a statistic, which I can't recall, about how much learning occurs by seeing versus hearing and other senses, but I know that by seeing is a pretty high number, and I imagine that number has grown by more virtual learning and other things. And would you say that right now, we are harder on our eyes than we've ever been? We are asking more of our eyes than we ever have as the human race, as far as we know?
Well, Scott, it's really interesting that you asked that question, because I think even if we just look at something as simple as the current global pandemic, we are using our eyes even more because we're literally focusing on screen a lot more. And the amount of digital use that we have has increased at every age, truthfully, because you have at-home schooling, you're telecommuting, everybody's in front of their screen all day from morning to night. So I think from that point, we are using our eyes a lot more. And then just our lifestyle over the last year and a half has changed a lot because of our habits, whether, again, be nutrition or staring at the screen or the mask wearing. So I think we are straining our eyes a lot more just because of our lifestyle circumstances in many ways. I mean, just from that perspective, just from the pandemic perspective.
Yeah, whenever I talk about prevalence, at a lecture, we talk about prevalence growing the rate it is. And I always look to the vicious circles by Christophe Baudouin in terms of entry points into this dry eye world. There's so many, right? And we've seen so many more.
Yeah, for sure. And I think this lifestyle workshop couldn't have come at a better time because, like Amy said, I mean, the pandemic has changed things so dramatically. I mean, the lifestyle was important before COVID, but now with all these new stressors on the eyes, thanks to being at home and Zoom meetings like this one, and the masks. I mean, that's a whole chapter should be on masks with all the adverse environmental. It's like a controlled adverse environment, the mask by itself. But there's so much to unwrap, and it's so exciting to be initiating this new workshop.
What can you share with us about the structure of this new workshop in terms of how many people will be involved? Do you have a timeline? How many committees will there be? Any of those details that you can share?
Sure. I think at this point there are, let's count them up. We have 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 10 total subcommittees. one of which will involve industry's input, although they don't. We seek their input. We love the constructive critiques we receive, but they don't have control over the content. And public awareness, which Chris Starr will be chairing, has a number of people involved to help increase our awareness. Other than that, we have 8 subcommittees, and those will address the digital environment that we just talked about, cosmetics, pretty much anything that you put in and around your eye to improve your appearance, and anything you inject, but nothing with a needle or with a scalpel. That comes under elective procedures and medications. And again, what people choose to have done to their eyes in terms of surgery or certain medications, how they impact. Nutrition, what we eat, how what we eat can contribute to hypertension, can contribute to diabetes, can contribute to a number of things. The changes in the microbiome in the gut, which affects your eye. All of these things influence us. The environment, for example, UV light, humidity, pollution, geographic location, air conditioning, all of these affect the eye. Lifestyle challenges such as stress, sleep disorders, depression, physical inactivity, smoking, eye rubbing, all impact the front of the eye. Contact lens wear, and the societal challenges. There are a lot of health disparities, for example, in indigenous peoples that are very different than we see elsewhere in the world. They're the pandemic responses that we just discussed. Migrant camps in Turkey alone, there are about 4 to 5 million migrants that are bringing in trachoma, chlamydia. They're bringing in diseases they haven't seen in Turkey in quite some time. How do you deal with this? Then you have in countries where they have acid attacks on young girls. What do you do because they don't want them to have education? All of these different aspects and changes is lifestyle, what we do to ourselves and what others. Right now, we anticipate having over 125 people involved in this TFOS workshop, and they'll be coming from over 35 countries around the world. So it's going to be another huge effort that will probably take 18 months, and we hope to have them all together, meeting in either subcommittees or all at the end together to give, and potentially at another conference, to give presentations. But then the key, public awareness, social media. Amy will be working a lot with Chris and that subcommittee to try to share what we learn and educate others, which is what we do all over the world.
What's also interesting to think about this one is, again, how Chris mentioned that the TFOS DUES 2 workshop was so focused on educating the medical professionals. With this workshop, because it is lifestyle focused and what we do to ourselves, there will be a lot of culture infused in this as well. So a lot of questions will be taken from around the world about how our lifestyles, whether it be how we live, where we live, our work, anything. It's just the dynamics between the male versus female, the economic situation. This will be very, very different. So it's almost a larger epidemiological analysis in many ways, because there are so many different things around the world that can impact us. And it's fascinating because if you look at the Western lifestyle, say in North America, it's going to be very, very different than the lifestyle, say in, pick a country.
Japan.
The rest of it, well, even in Japan, it's so, even though they're similarly developed in many ways, the contrasts are so extreme. Or say in the Middle East, you have, say, sand. It's going to be very different than, Dubai is going to be very different than New York. But then you have sub-Saharan Africa, or you have the Pampas in Argentina. So there are going to be so many different parameters to look at here from the scientific perspective, but also, who are we, where are we, what do we do? So I think it'll be really fascinating and, again, eye-opening, and how we can integrate this into, obviously, the medical professionals, the practices and how they can diagnose, treat, and manage the ocular surface disease, but also educate people about, their daily life and, what we're literally doing to ourselves.
Well, it sounds like a much needed, good timing conference workshop that you're putting together. I see so much value in that. So great work in seeing that. When do you expect to get started? Do you have a target date for completion, publication, that a wish, what you hope for?
Our pipeline. So we are going to kick off the subcommittee meetings probably within the next few weeks. And we will be announcing the subcommittees very soon. We'll be making those public. We'll have a rolling announcement of the different subcommittees to keep people on their toes. And the wish for finishing this workshop will be 2022. But we don't like deadlines that much because we want to make sure that we thoroughly analyze everything and position and package everything appropriately. So,
yeah, and I should also note too that the way we do these workshops is that we'll have outlines. Everybody is asked to review every report to make constructive critiques. And ultimately, when all those drafts are done from all these subcommittees, to be publishing this in the Ocular Surface again later in 2022 if we can. All of these reports go to what we call a harmonization committee. And this harmonization committee can be 6 or 8 people. And we go through every single one of the reports again to make sure that everything is evidence-based and peer-reviewed. And if it's speculation, either remove it or note it as such. So that we really try to make sure that everything here has evidence. Actually, we make sure that everything has evidence. If it doesn't, it's not there. So that we can build upon that to then make recommendations for conclusions of what we've done, but recommendations for where we need to go next, where our understanding needs to increase, where do we have to develop more in terms of not only people's behavior or people's understanding, but potentially also for industry to play a role too in the kinds of things that they make. So this is this workshop.
Well, very exciting. Again, Team Sullivan, Team TFOS, thank you so much, Chris. Thanks for joining me on this journey. David recommended that we bring you in, and clearly that was an easy decision. And I appreciate everything all the time you've taken out. I know this has not been easy to coordinate, being 3 hours apart in time zones. So it's been a great ride, and I really appreciate it from everybody. And TFOS, we really look forward to the work on the new workshop.
Thank you, both of you, for what you've done for this.
Thank you. Great team.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me, including me in all of this. I've been thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to the next chapter, which is the lifestyle workshop.
Right. And catch the entire series if you're just catching this one on any podcast channels, or if you're fortunate enough to be watching on YouTube, you can see the artwork of Dr. Chris Starr right behind him. Lean out of the way a little bit. He actually created that. I think you said it took about 3 weeks to get it done. But it's really
3 minutes.
It's really well done. And I think that might find its way onto some TFOS social media pretty soon.
Jeez.
Thanks for listening. Join us for our next episode soon. Find us online at www.ocularsurfaceacademy.com, all major podcast platforms, and YouTube.